Hello, I'm Alex Polyakov and I run customer solutions at DBOS. Today I'm excited to chat with Piers MacDonald and Calvin Ng, who are respectfully the CTO and staff software engineer at Orderful. Orderful has been onboarding DBOS for a few months and took it to production about a month ago. And I'm excited to chat with Piers and Calvin about their experience of what that was like. So, without further ado, Piers and Calvin, would you like to introduce yourselves and talk a bit about Orderful?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Alex. So I'm Piers. I'm the CTO. I've been at Orderful for about 8 years. There are maybe 4 or 5 employees here that have been here longer than myself. One of them is Calvin. So if anyone can correct me on stuff, it's going to be him. I've been, like I said, it's been 8 years here at Orderful. We're an EDI service provider. So EDI, if you're not familiar with it, is a series of technologies and protocols going for legacy for retail, logistics, warehousing, all sorts of supply chain transactions. And it goes back to, probably the earliest date iterations of it are in the 50s and 60s, but really started picking up in the 70s. So it's a decades old series of protocols, and with that comes a lot of challenges. I like to think about it like it's a shark, highly evolved, really good at what it does. And at Orderful, what we aim to do is to embrace EDI where it's at, what it's good for, and bring it to a more modern solution. And so I'm excited to talk a bit about how DBOS has helped us on that mission. Calvin?
Hey, I'm Calvin Ng. I'm a staff software engineer. As Piers mentioned, I'm one of the more longer tenured employees. I've been here about 8 or 9 years now. And I am the lead developer on, I'm on a platform-oriented team, and I'm working on implementing DBOS into our stack in various ways, but multiple workflows,
Excellent. And so maybe we can start with talking about how you're using DBOS now. What do your workflows do for you?
Yeah. So I think that's a bit of a fun start, because if you'd asked during the process when we started first considering that we needed this family of solutions, and then as we're getting into it, and then even as we selected it, at no point during that did we actually think that we'd be using it the way today that we are today. And so I'll explain what I mean by that. But it's turned out to be fun and honestly very fortuitous. We went down this path because we were using a stack that there's a lot of async processing with EDI. It's, sometimes you can get massive inventory files, or someone sends, these are all the products I sell, and then we have to go do a whole bunch of processing before we send it somewhere. And so we have a very high use of async technologies, and so we used queuing. And because of the semantics we were looking for, we were finding that most of the off-the-shelf solutions out there, like RabbitMQ, Kafka, SQS, we either tried them or we looked at semantics, didn't quite match up. And so then we got into these workflow orchestration tools, or whatever you would call the entire family, durable execution, that DBOS and the like provided, and that much better matched our needs. What we didn't anticipate is at the same time, we, like everyone on the planet, have been looking into AI and agentic processing. And as we were building, we'd launched a few AI solutions, including what I'm very proud to say is, the first in the industry. But what we call our new agent harness is asking AI to take on more sophisticated workflows. And when you start doing that, you're asking AI to do things with human in the loop. You're asking it to do, some really long processing sometimes. Some of these agent plans, especially with really sophisticated models, can take minutes, hours, to run, and then they can take days until you get the approval for the human in the loop. And so that is just a perfect overlap for durable executions. Is mapping your agent planning cycles as workflows. So right now within Orderful, we have 2 completely different and honestly great use cases for it. We have our Orderful agent harness, and then also the work Calvin, like he says, doing is reorchestrating our entire platform top to bottom with DBOS and removing a lot of our usage of our previous queuing system.
I see. Calvin, any color to add there? Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Piers kind of touched on everything there. I think the work that I'm doing right now is moving our kind of very high volume, our golden path transaction processing workflows into DBOS, and that's mainly to give us more insight into how long these things take to run, if they need to be recovered, if there's anything that failed, and we need to take a look at the failures, that sort of thing.
And can you speak to that volume a bit? Is that okay to characterize it? Can you put a number on how many you're doing per day?
Alex, as of this morning, we kind of completely ported over our legacy RabbitMQ system into DBOS. So we're doing all of our transaction processing in DBOS. And what that looks like is roughly, I would say, with the fair queuing pattern, it's 2 million workflows a day.
Not too shabby.
Scale we're talking about just for processing. Something else I'm working on is on the delivery side. So there's kind of a two-step process, like we do processing and then moves on to delivery. And with delivery, that's not at all on prod yet. So it's something that's currently in flight. But once that's also on DBOS, we're looking at maybe 4 or 5 million workflows a day.
Wow.
And there's a few other ancillary things too as well. They just become multiples of it, right? Like you take all of that and run that same traffic through, and next thing you're looking at.
We're looking to expand.
4 million, 6 million.
Yeah, we're looking to significantly expand also our workflows. Right now, it's done kind of in a very simplistic way, which are just our existing processing models, like kind of wrapped in a DBOS kind of transaction. But looking forward towards the future, we might 2 or 3x our step counts, and looking at what the load is on our database currently, we're thinking about how we want to scale this. So that's we've had a couple conversations about that already, Alex. But we're looking for some guidance there.
Excellent. And what kind of stack are you on? Where is this all running? Are you on AWS based?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Calvin. You're the one that set most of it up. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're a full TypeScript shop. We run on AWS. We're running ECS tasks, and we're using RDS as the backing store for DBOS.
And that's all you need to.
That was one of the things I wanted to say that made. I'm sure you'll ask later. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. What's the question?
I was just gonna say, like, that's all you need for DBOS is a database and some containers to run your work.
Yeah, dead simple to get started. Architecturally straightforward.
Oh.
Great bang for the buck. I think that's one of the reasons. The usage pricing for temporal, something like temporal, was kind of out of our budget, very bluntly. But I think that we, or at least me, really quickly moved on from like, will this work to okay, how is this scale now? And sometimes with other technologies like Kafka, it's like we never even made it past that initial phase.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was going to say something. You agree with what you said there, is that it's one of the really attractive parts of DBOS is that it is exactly with our stack, right? Like you don't need anything more. Like for the basic primitives of a compute server and Postgres server, which, I mean, we're on AWS, but anyone can keep those things up and running and administered really well. And that's all you need. Was incredibly attractive to keep the architectural and infrastructure footprint much simpler. Huge bonus.
Excellent. And so take me to a time before you made this decision back. And I didn't realize you guys have been in business for a while. So at some point you said you decided that you needed a durability framework. You need a durable execution of some kind. How did you arrive at that decision, and what pushed you to decide that?
I guess in some ways we've been always kind of moving towards it. And so, like I mentioned, the nature of EDI leads to a lot of async processing. There's simply just not a lot you can do. We're an API-based company, so a company, a customer or a trading partner, whoever's exchanging data across our platform, will send an order, an invoice, a load tender, whatever business information it is. And there's not a lot we can do within your typical request context, right? You want to get that response back within milliseconds, and EDI just requires there's a lot more heavy lifting there. So async was always kind of the name of the game. And we started out, being the AWS hosted with probably the most simple tool to do that, which was SQS. And over time, as we evolved, what we realized is the semantics that we want from our async processing just got more and more complicated. And so, for examples are things like fanning out to different processes as you want to have multiple services handle things. And then semantics such as sharding and prioritization, because not all transactions are, that we get are the same. For example, if somebody sends a load tender, which is basically a request for, I want a carrier to drive my goods from one place to another, you want to have that process within, milliseconds, seconds, minutes at most, because you want to get responses from as many carriers as possible to get the most competitive rate. The inventory files I mentioned, the larger ones, those might be sent weekly, where you send your entire bill of goods to a retailer and say, this is what I sell. You send that at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night, and it doesn't matter if that takes an hour. So because they're all transactions, but they have very different business contexts, it's very important for us to be able to segregate, prioritize, and move the data, process the data around. And so what we found ourselves doing is either building on top of out of the box queuing and messaging systems and providing all these contexts, building plugins, building everything there. Or what we really got towards eventually was realizing that, hey, there's this entire class of workflow tools, and durability was part of it, but really at its core, it was managing your workloads in code. Really, is what it was, and the durability is an incredibly important part. Calvin, I think, built this entire retry system on top of RabbitMQ that was, again, something that would have been, that we now get out of the box for free with DBOS. But the key thing is the semantics of the processing. We wanted to have a lot of flexibility to match the complexities of our business, and eventually that pushed us towards a durable execution platform.
So you mentioned that you had SQS, you had RabbitMQ at some point, you had probably some custom code around those systems to do durable-like things. And then you decide you're gonna, maybe standardize around one platform, but you've got a sizable team there, and so what is it like to get everybody aligned and to say, well, let's use DBOS, and that's gonna solve our problems? What was that process like?
Yeah, so getting consensus and getting buy-in for something better wasn't too hard, right? Like, every time there's a bit of customer pain and we pin it down to the lack of flexibility in our async processing, everyone feels it. We have an on-call schedule that's shared by everyone. So when something happens, people just know that the pain exists. So finding a better solution was out there. I think the first place it came to when we started exploring these is, talking to our infrastructure folks who couldn't be here, but, they look at it and say, yeah, they're like, we could be better, but, spinning this kind of stuff up, this is a lot of complexity. And they say, does this actually make us more stable by taking on more? And that's where finding DBOS, it was, in fact, I think it was one of our senior DevOps folk who pointed it out for the first time and said, hey, look, this is just Postgres, which we manage every day. Maybe this gives us that flexibility and that sophistication of that we need, with actually not even more There was kind of a quiet assumption of when should we do this. It's when we're willing to take on the overhead of this more sophisticated processing. When you look at something like a cadence or a temporal or that, and the reality is we actually are able to do it simpler. And so that once we realized that, it was very easy to get people aligned and get them excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not hard to sell developers on not having very fragile custom code for things like sharding, partitioning, and retries. And I built this entire sharding mechanism on top of a RabbitMQ because they didn't have that natively at all. And we're using various plugins for that, depending on the Rabbit version, could go out of date and cause issues in prod. And everything that Conductor provides as well, like the observability and durability on top of that, is just kind of like the icing on the cake.
Excellent. And so you decide you need to look at a tool, and you're looking at DBOS. You mentioned you looked at temporal. Were you looking at some of the others as well? And what was the decision process like, and what were the criteria?
Yeah, I think we did look at a few others. I mean, there's a slew of them, Restart or Re-something, and a fellow called Little Horse, who great outfit that we met, we were connected with, and they had a great solution too. But really, what it came down to was the ability to own it ourselves. Is we didn't. Self-hosting was incredibly important to us. We want to have, this is a core, this is the core of our platform, and we want to be able to control our own destiny. And no one cares as much about our customers as we do. So that was pretty important. And then the simplicity of it, and then obviously the throughput, is we wanted to do that. And then the developer accessibility and the ease of use of it, right? We didn't want to we're always adding new processing ways to process and new features that that do more on our main platform. And so we want this to be incredibly accessible there to our developers, and didn't want to be bridging over different languages. Wanted really good SDK support, good tooling, Conductor, like good visibility, like Calvin mentioned, all of that together. And we did a very weighted kind of analysis over all of it. And DBOS came out head and shoulders above the rest.
Got it. Okay, and so you made the decision, and then what was the actual rubber hitting the road like?
One thing I was going to say about the how the rollout's gone is, for all the learning and the technical implementation, the actual DBOS team has been fantastic. Again, kind of like what I love about how the technology met us where we are, with Postgres and TypeScript and Node, and it is right there. Even the little things like the Slack channel, right? Like, and being able to talk to you guys like you're on the same team. It has really met us where we are, and every little thing we kind of come across, both the responsiveness and the ease of getting in touch has been fantastic. So it's been really smooth in terms of the overall process, even when the little technical hiccups come up.
Thank you very much for that. And what are the next steps? Where are you gonna take things next? You mentioned you recently sort of transitioned all your traffic to use DBOS. Is that right?
A few other things. It's in the process. Yeah. So now DBOS is now in our mainline processing path, and so it is now. Before we were just kind of working towards that and working on these little side ones. Now that path doesn't work without DBOS, but there's still a few more workflows that we want to add on top of there. And where we're looking at going next, we are going to be going multi-cloud, as we have, there's a lot of demand from customers of our platform to be available and be hosted on other clouds. And, that was one of the motivations to get in here was we went multi-region this year, spinning up an EU data center. And now looking at going multi-cloud, is we didn't want to take on this sophisticated workload processing, knowing that it could be all over the place, without having a framework that would allow us to both instrument and track and trust that those workflows would execute well, especially as a lot of them will transfer across flows. So like our business is unlike, say, an ERP where you might spin up, oh, you have an AWS instance and you have your Azure one, and it's more like a social network where people, you can be hosted in all these different regions in that, but everyone has to come together and share. So if one customer who is hosted in this region trades with someone here, there has to be a handoff. And you can't have things fall between the crack. You need to have the ability to trace it end to end, and we don't think we could do that without DBOS today. So that's where we'll be going towards over the next year.
Excellent. And so other than that, Calvin, what's next on your plate for DBOS?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, expanding DBOS throughout the entire processing pipe. We have it kind of narrowly focused on one. I wouldn't call it the little piece. It's kind of the biggest piece of our product, but it just handles transaction processing itself. Delivery comes next, and then later this year, we're potentially talking about unifying some of our ingestion workflows.
I see.
That could happen potentially through DBOS.
And what about feature requests for us? What would you want us to build? What is the platform lacking that you need?
I've put in a couple already in our Slack channel. But I think having a kind of like I was mentioning earlier with about temporal, having this unified view between DBOS system databases, or if we had multiple 3 or 4 different system databases, how do we manage a workflow across all 4, for example, right? That'd be something nice to have as we move towards region cross cloud, right? Because I don't want to be looking at 4 DBOS consoles to figure out what's happening with my workflow, right? When they're kind of logically the same workflow.
Yeah, that's
one of the things we love is one of the things we loved is that, like, even without that, like, with the kind of the Postgres roots, is that we have a lot of accessibility to that, on our own. So, if we need to do something custom and weird, we can go ahead and take a look at the tables there and build a view. But I can't imagine we'd be the only folks that are looking at, multi-region, multi-cloud workloads, and having that kind of like global administrator, a product around a view around that would be pretty rad.
You are somewhat unique in that you have one foot in both worlds. You have an AI workflow, and you have very much a traditional transactional workflow. Maybe you can speak to the differences in using DBOS for those 2 different applications.
Yeah, I think there's differences, but there's also like the same thing at the end of the day that they both need, right? You need reliable application execution. That's what it comes down to, is the durability, right? But the thing with on the AI side is just that there's between LLMs, and then also when you throw human in the loop there, an unpredictability of when the thing is going to actually execute, right? And so having that reliability and that flexible framework is essential there. And then that translates to other things, like on the transaction processing, where it's a lot less unpredictable, right? Like, we know we want these to be like really, really snappy and high volume. But the same thing, if you want, that kind of high volume, you need the flexibility to handle various programming things. And so, yes, they're very different, but it's that's what makes me think of like something like DBOS is like a kind of an important computing primitive, like a Linux or like a file system. It's like an HTTP application handling framework. It's just that it's that core unit of computing that you can build many different things on. And you need to have that reliable thing that you can trust to execute something. If you want to do AI, high throughput services, tons of different things. So I think you're right there. They're different, but I think the primitive problems are, kind of the same across many kinds of computing challenges. And that's what I really appreciate. I think this is like a core primitive that everyone should be using.
Yeah. And are you finding that are you basically building agents that run transactions? In essence, like, are you building AI that then
Sort
turns
of. No, I mean,
or do you find that that might happen in the future? That you'll basically
not
bridge
really.
the
Most
gap?
of the AI usage is on the front end, is like the onboarding is getting folks there. Once you're at the transaction processing stage, there's a lot less inference and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I
But
see.
maybe, who knows, we might get there one day.
I see.
Yeah, at that point, by the time you're processing transactions, you want it to be deterministic, right? You don't want
Yes.
something with an order or an invoice to be like, hey, let's see what Claude has to think about this. It's more of like, how do you get to the point where you're like, yes, this is the exact right order, the right format, everything that the trading partner, Walmart, Costco, Target, whoever wants, and then you can set that in stone and let it go. But yeah, there's not a ton of it there. But yeah, maybe at some point I could see it crossing over.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. It's awesome, and thank you so much for using DBOS. Any other parting words, and anything you want to leave our audience with, where they can find you guys online or learn more about Orderful?
Yeah, only parting words. Thanks for having us. Again, love DBOS, and like I said, anyone that's listening that's kind of considering it should try it out. Like the ease of trying it out. If you got a Postgres database and application, you're already there. As for us at Orderful, you can find us anytime at www.orderful.com. And our aim is to be the most modern, fastest EDI platform there. So if EDI is an acronym that anybody listening actually knows about, and that's usually half the time we hear people go, "What's EDI?" But if you know what that is, then you know the pain. Give us a call and see if we can help you out.